The first scream hit me like a spotlight, cutting through sleep. I jolted upright, heart pounding, bare feet hitting cool hardwood. Through my bedroom window, floodlights washed across my back pasture. Tense dozens of them peppered the field like a festival had spawned overnight. Campfires crackled. Portable speakers thumped bass. An inflatable bounce house bobbed in the dark. And at the center of it all stood Karen Hollingsworth, HOA president, pastel blazer, glinting, a clipboard tucked under her elbow like a badge. She'd actually done it. If you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare, you need to see how this ends. Subscribe for more stories of justice served. 3 days earlier, she'd announced her community camping retreat. It was supposed to be on the HOA's communal green space, until she oversold the tickets. When her reservation was denied by the county fire marshal, she simply shrugged and declared my acreage functionally communal. But my land sat outside the HOA border. A different plat. Different jurisdiction. A fact she conveniently ignored. I threw on jeans, grabbed my boots, and stepped outside. The night smelled of charcoal and spilled beer. Gravel crunched under tires as more campers arrived. Headlights stringing across my fence line. I approached the fence, voice steady. Everyone off my property now. Karen didn't even turn. You're hosting, Ryan. Try and smile. Think of the goodwill. I clicked my phone, activating the screen recording. This is trespass, all of you. Someone shoved a cheap ticket in my face. $50 a head. Rough math put her take near $25,000, if not more. She tapped the clipboard. Bylaws clearly state that any unused contiguous land adjacent to HOA borders is subject to temporary community use. My jaw set. Section 4.2.3. Temporary use applies only to designated common space, not private acreage. And my survey pins prove this isn't yours. Her smile sharpened. Then prove it tomorrow. A cheer rose behind her as glow sticks snapped to life. The field looked like a neon rave. The bass rumbled through the soil. If anyone got hurt, liability pointed straight at me. I backed away. Already planning by sunrise, trash blanketed the pasture. Cheap beer cans, paper plates, a charred fire pit scarred into the grass. A line of people were showering under a hose they'd rigged to my spigot. One had parked his RV half over my septic line. I felt the anger rise, but I smothered it. Comb wins cases. I recorded everything. Timestamps, faces, plates, chain of custody matters. At noon, Karen marched up my porch steps, like she owned them. We'll need bulls removed too. They're scaring people. I stared. The bulls live here. They're on my feed schedule, my rotation. They stay. She waved a pastel hand. I'll take it up with the HOA safety committee. You can't, I said. I am not under your authority. Her eyes narrowed, and I caught the flicker of recognition she knew. But ego doesn't yield easily. That night, the party escalated. Someone set off fireworks. Beer pong tables rattled. A teenager attempted to ride one of my fence rails, like a rodeo chute cracked it clean. The bulls stirred. Snorting, my phone pinged. The AirTag I'd hidden on yesterday's RV showed movement right over my buried waterline. Perfect documentation. I called my lawyer, Nora. Sharp mind. Colder patience. Keep recording, she said, and get a deputy on record. Tomorrow we'll file for a cease and desist, an emergency injunction. Copy, I said. She paused. Do not remove campers yourself. Let Karen build her own gallows. I hung up, grabbed a thermos of coffee, and settled into my porch chair. I watched as someone strung lanterns from the fence, like carnival lights. A drunk couple stumbled into my feed trough. My bulls huffed, ears flicking. Midnight. The crowd peaked near 500, by rough count, flashing bracelets, drum circles. Someone plugged amps into my exterior outlet. Electricity taxes, muscles. I flipped my breaker. Cheers turned to groans. Karen shoved through the crowd, face red. I'll cite you for obstruction. You can't cite the property owner on his own property, she sputtered. Cameras caught every second. The sheriff's cruiser rolled up then, blue lights washing the field. Deputy Morales stepped out, boots crunching gravel. He took one look at the chaos. Who organized this? Kieran lifted her chin. Community event. Morales's brow arched. On his land. With no permit. She faltered. I offered Morales a folder printouts of the county fire code. My plat map, with survey pins circled, and ticket hub screenshots of Karen's sales. He whistled low. You built quite the case. Documentation is free, I said. Morales keyed his radio. We'll shut this down, but you'll need civil orders tomorrow. Karen seethed, as officers dispersed the crowd. Fire pits hissed. Tents collapsed. Angry grumbling faded into the night. At 3 a.m., the field finally emptied, leaving Rutt's trash and the smell of stale beer. My bulls drifted back to their pen, unsettled, as I locked the gate behind the last straggler. Karen hissed, This isn't over. Tomorrow, we escalate. I smiled. I'm counting on it. Because tomorrow, I'd bring the bulls into play legally and otherwise. The next morning, dew clung to shredded tent stakes and trampled grass like evidence glitter. My pasture looked like a battlefield. I measured roots to inches deep, photographing tire tread patterns, with my phone angled for shadow contrast. Property damage is easier to prove when you quantify it. The bulls watched from behind their panel fence, ears flicking. They didn't like the smell of burnt plastic or spilled beer any more than I did. At 8 a.m., a caravan of SUVs returned, engines rumbling across my gravel drive. Campers spilled out with beach chairs and coolers, as if last night had never ended. Music thumped again. Someone hammered stakes into the soil, right beside a posted no trespassing sign. I walked down with a legal pad. Everyone off my property. There will be no event today. Karen strutted forward, wearing a whistle and a branded lanyard. We sold weekend passes. You can't cancel a community service retreat. It promotes wellness. I flipped to a highlighted section of the county ordinance. Wellness retreats require fire marshal permits for crowds over 50. You've exceeded that tenfold. She snatched the page and ripped it. Paper doesn't scare me. My camera caught the whole thing. Behind her, volunteers erected a makeshift stage plywood propped on cinder blocks. Sparks flew from a portable generator, sputtering near dry grass. The bulls paced harder now, hooves beating nervous rhythm. A neighbor, Carl, approached. Karen said you volunteered your pasture. Said we'd build a community fund with ticket sales. I opened my email app. Funny, here's her message calling this a private fundraiser. And ticket transfers to her PayFast wallet. I handed him my phone. His face fell. He turned, whispering to others. Doubt spread like wildfire. By noon, the crowd ballooned again, kids, dogs, karaoke echoing across the valley. A drone buzzed overhead with GoPros dangling. My bulls bumped their fence panel, snorting. I need expert allies. I thought, first step, surveyor. I called Jacob, meticulous, steady hands, sharp eyes. Bring your plat maps, I said, and chalk powder. He arrived 20 minutes later, unrolled the county plat like a battle plan, and tapped each survey pin with his mallet. Bright blue stakes replaced weathered markers, drawing a crisp border around my acreage. Campers stared as blue powder traced the line under their tents, and through their coolers, and across their SUV tires. Nobody stands on this side without trespassing, Jacob announced, voice carrying. Cameras turned. Karen's lips tightened. Next ally. Game warden. My bulls weren't pets. They were livestock protected under state law. Disturbing them. A hefty fine warden price arrived in a mud-streaked truck, mirrored sunglasses reflecting everything. He strode to the pen, watched the bulls for a long, silent beat, then spoke. They're stressed. Fire risks high. Move the camp, Karen huffed. They're just cows. Price turned a slow, surgical pivot. Bulls. And if they breach that fence because of this crowd, liability lands on the organizer. Phones recorded. Whispers darted. Insurance reps cringe at words like liability. Karen waved him off. We have waivers. I smiled. Unsigned digital templates aren't waivers. Chain of custodies. Price nodded. You've been warned. He handed me a card. Call if the situation escalates. Escalate. It always does. By late afternoon, porta potties arrived plopped directly over my septic drain field. I filmed the placement, muttering time. A beer keg rolled off the tailgate. A DJ booth fired up. I texted Deputy Morales the footage. Stage construction. Generator near dry grass. Sanitation over septic. Unpermitted crowd. His reply came fast. Keep recording. Judge reviews tomorrow. Karen grabbed a megaphone. Tonight, we host the Sunset Stampede dance. Everyone inside the rope. She pointed to nylon cord, strung across my pasture like a carnival ring. The bulls pressed the fence again. Irritated by pulsing bass. My jaw clenched. Move the rope. Karen ignored me. We'll wrangle cows for the kids. I stepped forward. Absolutely not. She smirked. Then move them somewhere else. They live here. Her voice boomed, megaphone distorting. He's hoarding dangerous animals. After tonight, we'll petition to have them removed. I filmed the whole tirade. Harassment, incitement, false claims. Judges eat that combination like popcorn. Nearby, a drunk camper climbed onto the bull fence, snapping a rail. The bulls surged, nostrils flaring. Dust clouds spiraled. Kids cheered. My pulse spiked. One bad move, and we'd be scraping catastrophe off the grass. I hit record again, narrating. Fence damaged by reckless participant. Bulls agitated due to unauthorized crowd proximity. Chain of custody, baby. Sunset bled over the hill as lanterns flickered on. 500 people again. The DJ shouted hype. Karen collected cash, wristbanding newcomers. Her clipboard bulged with bills. That's when the wind shifted. The bulls caught the smell of sweat and beer and panic. They shoved harder. I walked to the stage, tapped the mic. Feedback squealed. Everyone needs to clear the pasture. Now. Booze rained. Karen slapped the mic away. He's jealous of community joy. I stepped back, pocketed my phone, and texted Price and Morales. Fence breach imminent. Crowd ignoring warnings. Unsafe livestock stress under state code. Section blue lights flashed across the pasture before Karen's rant hit its stride. Deputies commandeered the stage, megaphones roaring. Event is shut down. Your organizer lacks permits and authorization. Disperse. Bowling pins. That's how fast the crowd toppled out. Tents collapsed. Wristbands ripped. Coolers abandoned. Karen shrieked, "You can't do this. I'm the HOA president." Morale stared coldly. "Not on land that doesn't belong to you." They escorted her off the stage as she flailed. Cameras swarmed. Live streams spiked, standing by my quietly snorting bulls. I exhaled. Tomorrow, I would file the injunction. And sometime very soon, those bulls would take center stage. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I walked the pasture like a crime scene investigator. Hoof-deep ruts. Spark-burned grass. A shattered panel where someone tried to pet my bulls. I documented everything with crisp narration and wide shots for context. Judges hate ambiguity. Then I loaded my truck with a folder thick enough to dent drywall by county ordinances, plat maps, timestamped photos, deputy reports, surveyor certifications, livestock protection statutes. Evidence doesn't shout. It stacks. At 9 a.m., I met my attorney, Nora, at the county courthouse. She flipped through my folder, expression cool. "This is ironclad. We'll petition for an emergency injunction, property damage compensation, and a no trespass order. If she fights it, summary judgment's likely." We entered the hearing room. Karen sat with two HOA board members who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. Her pastel blazer had wilted. Her clipboard was missing. Phones buzzed. Behind her, clips of her meltdown had gone viral overnight. The judge scanned the footage of her tearing county ordinance pages. Eyebrows rose. When the sheriff's report revealed estimated attendance near 500, the judge pressed his pen against the desk. "And your justification?" he asked Karen. She swallowed. "Community morale." Nora stood. "Property line is indisputable. Trespass was willful. Livestock were endangered. Revenue was pocketed personally. And continued gatherings are scheduled for tonight." The judge didn't blink. "Denied. Emergency injunction granted. Absolutely no re-entry onto Mr. Walker's land." Gavel sharp. Final. Outside. Cameras flashed. Karen hissed, "You think this stops me?" I turned. No, but the next part might. I walked straight to my truck, hooked the trailer, and loaded the bulls. They settled, snorting calmly. I guided them to the community, green actual HOA. Landwear. Karen's next stampede dance was scheduled by her own event boards. Eyes widened as I opened the gate. Bulls stepped into the empty field, munching grass, flicking tails. Perfectly legal. Perfectly documented. Livestock grazing on community land is protected under state code, if no fencing exists to bar them. Guess what Karen forgot to install? Parents screamed. Vendors packed. The DJ killed his power. Pancake tents folded like surrender flags. Karen arrived, screeching, "Get them out." I pointed to the bylaws section, 7.4. Communal grounds are open to all residents. Agricultural use, unless formally restricted. And to enact restriction, you need a supermajority vote. Cameras loved that line. The crowd murmured. Board members whispered. One backed away from Karen, shaking his head. Deputy Morales arrived again. "Ma'am, this is now an HOA procedure issue." "Step back." She refused. He issued her a citation for disorderly conduct on community grounds. The board voted on the spot to suspend her presidency pending investigation into misappropriated funds. Her clipboard finally hit the grass. 3 days later, we convened for the public HOA hearing. Chairs scraped. Phones hovered. Nora rolled a portable screen forward. Exhibit after exhibit piled up: trespass, ticket sales, alcohol without permit, porta potties over septic lines, endangerment of livestock, harassment on video. My dry one-liners landed like soft jabs. Boundaries exist for a reason. Common sense isn't communal property. Permits are cheaper than lawsuits. The board voted unanimously to expel Karen from any governing role, issue restitution for damages, and restrict her access to community property pending psychiatric evaluation. Then the twist. A parent stood up. I bought 8 VIP camping passes, and she promised fireworks. Where's my refund? Lawsuits ripple outward like cracked glass. One by one, hands raised, funds demanded, complaints filed, price gouging, false advertising. Fraud. Karen deflated in real time. The aftermath was quiet. My pasture regrew. The bulls settled. Nora wired my restitution, $14,630 and change. Enough to reinforce fencing and repaint the porch. Karen. Last I heard, she moved out under a cloud of small claims court dates and HOA gossip. At grocery stores, conversations stopped when she turned the corner. Her festival backfired like a rusted muffler. On my porch one evening, I sipped coffee, watching dusk settle. Deputy Morales leaned against his cruiser. "You didn't have to bring the bulls," he said. I smirked. "I let the bylaws do the heavy lifting. The bulls were decor." He shook his head, laughing softly. "Boundaries matter. Property isn't a suggestion. And if someone decides your land is their playground, document, prepare, and let the system do what bulls do. Best apply pressure. If you've got a HOA horror story, drop it below. I'll read every one."